Well, welcome to another episode of the Ronald Dilson II podcast show. Today, I have one of my amazing brothers, my good friends, and I just met them. It's crazy. Mr. Chase Black himself. Welcome to the show, my brother. How you doing?
Thank you for the introduction, man. I love it. Love
Man,
the energy.
that was a little small introduction there, you know what I'm saying? But gotta warm it up, you know what I'm saying? But no, welcome, man. How you doing today?
I'm well, man. Thanks for having me. Things are been going well. Things are running smoothly. It's good to see you. Good to hear from you.
Awesome, man. Awesome, man. It's a pleasure, man. Chase, I like to start each episode, with an icebreaker. And so our icebreaker is pretty much how we met. Usually it's the case since we just met, which is crazy, right? We just met like what, this year or was it last year? I can't even remember, but we were doing a casting call for one of the projects that we're both working on right now. And you come into the room and you was running camera for this casting call for us that day. And I just remember us just kicking it off right away, man. We started talking. We was getting deep into our writing. There's some scripts that we were both working on, man. You remember that?
I do. Yeah, that was a good day.
I was just like,
that was a really good day.
I was like, you motivated me. I was like, I need to get back to work. I need to go work on these projects. And that's how I felt leaving that day, man. I was like, man, I got to get back to work, man. Like you inspired me just from us talking, because that's what's so amazing, man, so powerful about working around other individuals that are amazing when it comes to creating, great content, whether it's scripts or whatever it is. You kind of your energy feed off each other. And so I love that, man. I was just like, yo, I'm motivated to get back to work. I need to hang out with this brother more often, man, just to keep me on my toes, man. But no, man, I really appreciate that. That was a great day, a great casting call for us, man. So tell me, how did you get on that project? You mind sharing that with us?
Yeah. So that day, which was actually a really strange lines of events leading up to that, but I think you also know Ryan Funk, and
of course.
Right. So, I've known him for a good minute just through skateboarding community and whatnot. And he put me on randomly, hit me up and was like, hey, I need a shooter. And are you willing to come out and do this casting? And it's like, I've never done a casting before.
Wow.
So I was like, yeah, I'm very open to it. So he sent me the contact and info, and then I just showed up that day and came ready to shoot. I came very unprepared because I did not know what to expect.
Right. You never know. Go in the nose.
Right.
Yeah, you never know, man. But yes, to tell y'all a little bit about, we can't give you too much info because they haven't released this project yet, but Chase and I both are working on this project. He's camera op, right? We would say camera op. You've done some drone scenes too that you shot with the drone, which has been amazing. And then of course I'm directing on this project, and I'm, pretty much doing some of the writing, very minor writing. I'm just basically editing the scripts, of course, to make them work for what we're doing. But it's been quite a journey for us. So I'm looking forward to seeing it all come together, of course.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how I was going through some of the things in my head, with the mixed bag of shoots and stuff. So I was just like, I'm very curious to see how all this really turns out. With everything that we're shooting. So I'm excited at the same time.
Something neither one of us, I'm sure, I've never worked on anything like this. I know I haven't.
No,
I never planned to.
No, even with
I never knew I would.
Right. Even with the green screen, I've never been in that side. I've always seen those things and whatnot. Even just how they did the Mandalorian. I don't know if you're familiar with that, how they use the mapping system around that. I've been in those, been around that camera in the rooms, but never had the opportunity to use those tools.
Yeah, it's a different world, man. So I'm excited, man. It's a lot more of that hopefully coming, and we're getting to learn a lot in this production. So that's what's exciting about it. So, my brother, what inspired you to pursue a career in film and television?
Man. Oh, that's a loaded question. That's a good one.
Oh, it is. That's why it's my first question. Right? Let me sip my tea on that. That's the first question.
Man, so I would say, so as early as I can remember as a kid, I was naturally pretty artistic, if one would may say. I never really called it that, or even saw it as that, but I was always very like a first principles thinking creative. And so naturally, I loved music. I loved the arts, just anything in that realm. But music was pretty much my first love, just being in band for a long time. And then over time, I just love the aspects of camera. I was recording, like, man, I sound old when I say this, but I would take I would take cassette tapes, or not cassettes, but actual
Wow.
tapes, right?
Yeah.
And then record shows from TV, like, because
Wow.
my favorite episodes and stuff, like early at the time when VCRs were in. So I would just record it straight from
Yeah.
TV and whatnot. So I naturally had this deception of just like creating things more so. It was,
Hmm.
and maybe it was more so in that aspect, but over time, I then finally fell into a pocket when it was later on in life, probably around 14, 15, I started doing photography. And
Oh,
that's where a
sweet,
lot of
sweet.
my humble beginnings pretty much started at. And I was doing that, and I still do, all the way
Hmm.
up until into high school. And
Wow.
from
Wow.
there, I had certain little bit aspects of editing, and had an actual like TV production class and whatnot. And but it didn't really kick off until, and I've always loved movies as a kid, just watching. I would study the behind the scenes, learning all these things, but I never really thought of it as a passion. Just, it was just almost like a pleasure, a happy, like a guilty pleasure in some sense. Like, I just
Yeah.
loved the things about it, and I didn't know it was something that it was moving forth. And so, and honestly, so not until probably, I would say, prior to COVID, to be honest, that
Hmm.
I had a friend, but probably 3 years prior to that, I have a great friend who actually went to Full Sail and graduated. He's a gaffer out in Atlanta, and we were always
Okay.
just really good friends. And he kind of put me on to my first set because he
Mm.
saw my photography and things. And I was just like, and
Wow.
I had recently had laid off and everything. It's like, why not? Let's just go on. I'd been in photography sets and whatnot, so, and been around video people and cinematographers and stuff. So then
Hmm.
naturally, after that, it just started. It was a snowball. It was a compound effect after that, and
Wow.
then from there and there, I just started seeing the same aspects of photography being very similar to cinematography. And
Yeah.
just over time, it just became like this natural obsession, and just from there it continues to grow.
Awesome,
So
man. That's amazing, man. Wow. And it's my first time hearing about the photography stuff, because I do a little photography as well. So that was
really,
amazing to hear. Yeah. Photography was something that I would
man.
do when I wasn't able to be on set directing. And I was just like, I got
Mhm.
to figure something out to get that creativity, and to also just practice working with actors, or in this case, models or your clients, in front of the frame. So if I can direct them in photos, then naturally it can always build on my directing, in front of a live camera, So
That
yeah,
makes
so
sense.
but no, that's amazing, man. No, I'm glad to hear that. I know I have somebody else I can call now, right? I need
Yeah,
some photos, right? Man,
you
that's
can definitely
amazing,
call me.
man. So tell us, did you go to school for or film, or did you have any college experience in this industry, or?
So I did not have college experience. I was actually in school
Mhm.
for mechanical engineering. I always wanted to
Oh,
be
wow.
an engineer. An engineer was
Oh man.
something. So that's what I was saying early on. Like,
Yes.
the creativity was more from like a science aspect. So just kind of
Right.
curious of things. And then I never got, I grew up with just a single mom. So we didn't have
Mhm.
those, I didn't have the luxury of having those things. But I did get a hold, man. I remember when I was like 13,
Mhm.
I found a camcorder in our house. And
Oh.
so I was taking videos of skateboarding, just me skateboarding. I wanted to see how I
Mhm.
was doing my tricks and whatnot. And then over time, as a skateboarder, um, that's when I was meeting a lot of good friends of mine, and taking photos of them, and being around the filming side as well.
Mhm.
So that's where I got a lot of like my real first exposure around that area.
Wow.
And so later on in life, I did not. It just slowly became of just like, I don't want to say YouTube University, but mainly just from
Right.
being on set. That's where I would say
Yeah.
I really got my teaching at, and
Wow. That's
still
amazing.
learning.
Yeah.
So constantly being a student at all times. So I feel like
Yeah.
if anything, I feel like I'm getting the hard knocks type of way.
Right. No, that's amazing, man. And to tell you, my first degree was digital arts engineering. So
Really?
yeah, and it beat my
Wow.
butt, man. It really
That's a
did.
tough one.
Yeah, it was so tough. And then ended up switching my major because I was always looking at theater. I wanted to be in theater, but I
Hmm.
love computers and just wanted to make sure I was, good when I got out of college. But man, it was just too tough, man. And I wasn't happy. So naturally I found myself right where I belong in the theater department at Florida.
Right,
But
right.
no, man, that's amazing. You hear this a lot, a lot of people go into certain industries, but they need that creative outlet and eventually it takes over, right?
Right.
It takes over because it's like, man, this is where I'm supposed to be. But no, that's amazing, man. What is something you wish you would have known back then prior to getting started with this career? Because, now you're flourishing, right? You know what I'm saying? You're getting in a lot of projects, you're working on a lot of things. What's something you wish you would have known back then?
Something I wish would be, I honestly wish I kind of pursued a lot of this a little bit earlier with a little bit more
Yeah.
intentionality.
Hmm.
Actually giving myself the permission, in which I was, but I also didn't really think of it as a job per se, or
Yeah.
something where being freelancer. So I never really sat and said I wanted to do this for a living. And if I did, I always said to myself like, oh, this would be, it'd be cool one day maybe. But
Right.
majority of the time, I loved it from a passion aspect. So a lot of my early works, and still are when I started with photography, was just from street photography. So I love
Hmm.
pulling images from those old frames like Gary Winogrand and Vivian Meyer or Gordon Parks. Those a lot of those stay home with me. So
Nice.
one thing I wish I did learn was that trying to be even more intentional with
Hmm.
my craft, and I was. I don't regret anything, but I think actually finding the resources and the tools, and if not having the accessibility, and I think that's the biggest thing that was kind of a big falter for me. But I never let it be an excuse to do the thing. So I would say
Hmm.
intentionality is probably the biggest thing that would have curved a lot of things for me.
Nice, man. No, I love that. That's a great answer. Now a lot of people sometimes, usually I know with myself, I had to take on odd jobs to survive, especially coming right out of college. Were there any odd jobs that you care to share with us that you had to take to survive until things started picking up?
Man, I've definitely had the fair share of jobs. One thing my friends do notice
Hmm.
about me, they'll always say is like, Chase, you have so many different jobs. And they would kind of
Hmm.
say it to me, and then maybe I always think of it, maybe with my
Yeah.
ego. I'd be like, you make it
Right.
seem like that's a bad thing. And I would say, they're like, no, it's like you just have a lot of experience. I was like, okay, that makes sense. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I've done serving, busing,
Hmm.
um, I've done, man, trying to think of everything I've done. Done lawn care service. I've done walking
Nice. Wow.
dogs. I've
Wow.
done babysitting. I've done.
You really have done it all. You really have done it all.
I have done, yeah, a good amount of jobs. The oddest job I would say is actually the first round that I had, like actually doing work as a photographer, was
Hmm.
this dancing company.
Hmm.
I'll never forget it. And it's probably the first time I actually heard gaffing, like what that
Oh.
was, or at least gaff tape, right?
Hmm.
And this is probably, I think I was maybe 19, maybe like 20 or
Hmm.
so. And this company was like Dancing with the Stars or something like that. It was this kind of like rinky dink mom and pop. It was like a husband or a couple, because I believe their daughters were in dance. And so they saw there
Oh,
was
okay.
a need to be filled for the dancers needing photos and photography. So basically, you would have a social media person nowadays, but this
Hmm.
was that. They were basically would have a live feed that would show the photos that were being shot on site,
Oh, that's pretty
and
cool.
we would shoot those photos. And but the whole process of it was just, it was painstaking. You know how our hours are, that it's
Yeah.
sunrise to sundown.
Hmm.
This was just like we would go past sundown. It would be 11, 12 at night, like, and
Uh,
all for dancing. And that was probably the oddest job, because it was just, I felt really weird because I was taking photos of just young girls that were dancing. I
oh,
just felt really odd. Like
yeah.
I just
That's a
felt
little
really
different.
odd. It
Yeah,
just
that's a
felt,
little.
and like, granted, it was a controlled environment. It was just
Yeah.
like it just, to me at that age, was like, this is not what I wanted to do for photography. This is so
Right, right.
random. But
Yeah.
it was interesting to see how they ran their business and stuff. And I don't think they're around because I didn't think it was sustainable at all. Just the amount of how
Mhm.
there's things that I'm sure they probably were wishing that they had technology to make the infrastructure faster, right? Uploads
Mhm.
and downloads and whatnot.
Oh
Having
yeah.
it like, because they had their DIT on site and everything. But yeah, that was probably one of the oddest jobs. Like we'd have to
Wow.
travel around the country just to follow these competitions and take photos of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's very interesting there, man. Um, so what would you say would be that first production that you was just like, yeah, this is, I can do this forever. You know what I'm saying? The pay was right,
yeah.
the food was right, the people were right. What would you say would be that production? The first one.
The first one, man. Man. Um, Honestly, it was probably with Bob Scott. That's when I got the
Mhm.
real dosage with them. It was Bob and a good friend of mine.
Mhm.
He's a DP, and then Wally Arguta. Um, another fellow came up in DP. Being on set with them was kind of like, that was like the real
Mhm.
taste of it. Seeing a commercial for the first time and seeing how we lighted, they just everything. I didn't know what was going on, to be honest, when I was there.
Mhm.
I knew certain things, but I was completely exposed to this whole. It was a different side because I've always been on the photo side, and that runs a little
Yeah.
bit faster and kind of more, not saying they both have their precision accuracy, but the length of the scope is different. So like
Mhm.
I that communication system is different comparative to being on set. That one was, yeah. So, but it was one show. It was one commercial. Man, I can't remember the name of the commercial, but it was at a house somewhere in Orlando, and it was with Skystorm. And yeah, it was just it was them, it was good people. Everyone was just really nice and really open. And you always hear horror stories about being on, you got directors that could be OD or producers and higher ups, and just someone being mean or just kind of
Right.
on edge. But that never bothers me in general because I know majority of the time people are projecting regardless. So
Mhm.
but yeah, it was that particular one. That's when I felt like there was a sense of just communication all around, and everyone kind of being for this image and actually seeing that and feeling that, like how helpful everyone was. That was probably like
Right.
the most beneficial thing, and kind of being open and honest when they, like, right, I didn't know things, so I wouldn't touch things or anything, but they even put a line of trust on me that same day, which was kind of crazy. Like, I got
Mhm.
to cam up and shoot. And one director has come up to me, Rob Mackay, he goes, yeah, he's like, man, Bob must really like you. He's like, he doesn't do that, putting you on the
Wow.
spot for the cam. So I was like, wow. I was like, and I didn't,
Yeah.
I thought it was a big deal because I was really nervous, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
man, he's really making me do this. And so
Mhm.
um that yeah, so that shot was probably one of
Yeah.
the best.
No, that's amazing, man. That sounds like an amazing experience. And I've heard of Skystorm. I'm hearing more and more about them. But yeah, no, that's a major company here. So yeah, so that's amazing, man. So what advice would you give someone that's, let's say, if they want to be in the lighting department or they want to be on camera? You're telling us a lot about how you started your career in this department. So what advice would you give those that are just graduating from school and really eager to get into that department?
I say if you know what you're already wanting to do, I say go for it. Do it if it even if it's at your own risk. I would say go ahead and do that and find a ways to kind of create your own projects. I think that's the
Mhm.
biggest thing, is actually giving yourself
Yeah.
your experience, because right when you're on set, it's go time, it's work, but don't be
Right.
intimidated, but actually get familiar for what the things you want to do and study those things. So I would say, if you're wanting to be in lighting, start playing with light. You don't need the finest gear or anything. You have the best source, which is the sun. So find ways to
Mm.
where you can, shape the tools that you already have. There's an interview I watched with Pharrell and Chad Hugo when they first started NERD. I don't know if most of the guys and girls would even know this band, but
Mm.
that duo. But Pharrell would always talk about that when they first started, they didn't have all this music equipment. They had the things that worked to make a drum track, to record, and their computer. And they would go off of that. And a lot of the songs that from their early albums, and even to some of the stuff they still even go back to do, they record with and mix. And so I say find whatever tools you have and accessibility you have, let that be that will make you even better when you keep it simple. Keeping it very
Nice.
simple will allow you to actually be able to be more fruitful in the future, because you'll end up knowing the processes and systems that you've already built just with having not a lot of things, and that will refine your craft even better. So I'd say keep it simple and be eager just to create at all costs.
That's amazing, man. No, that's super amazing. A lot of people I've worked with and some of my students, so oftentimes feel we have to have such a big camera to just get started. So I'm always telling them, you got a mobile phone, right? So,
Right.
you can start getting to work with that mobile device if it has a camera on it. But yeah, you can just get started with what you have, and then when that door open and you're blessed to get another camera, then boom, get another camera. But it's going to make you remember those humble beginnings that you had. So no, that's a perfect answer, man. Tell us about a time you failed. Here are the good questions, right? And how did you overcome that failure? All right. This is the one that everybody always, okay.
Man, so one time that I failed, um, does it have to be on set or anytime?
It could be, let's go. Let's open it up. It can be anytime. It can
I
be
mean, I
anytime.
burnt out someone's clutch.
Oh, wow. Really? You broke
So,
that?
yeah, and I felt very
Whoa.
embarrassed because I can drive stick, but I've burnt out someone's clutch before. So,
Wow.
um, so there's that. Outside of that, if it was related to photo or video, well, so one little thing, my photography is all film. It's all 35 and medium format, 120 film.
Wow.
And that's the
Okay.
only thing I've ever shot before. So actually going into cinematography is the digital side for me. That was the curve, but
Wow.
the
Mhm.
same tactics or tactiles are there. But I did have a shoot one time, and the whole roll just didn't come out.
Mm.
And
Wow.
it was one time because my camera, it's a F100. It was a Nikon F100, and there's a defective piece on the back of the case that actually breaks. It's just plastic, and so it had broken. So I would have to hold it down and put gaffer's tape on it.
Mm.
I think at one point that it was just leaking in so much that none of the photos came out, and so that
Wow.
it was somehow still leaking. And so that was probably like a really big failure. Like I had done it before, like where certain shots didn't come out, of course,
Mhm.
but roll, like a couple rolls not coming out was kind of like was very heart wrenching.
Wow. So what was the outcome of that after that happened? Was that, I'm assuming it was for a client, right?
Uh, no, so
No.
thank God it
Okay.
wasn't.
Okay.
So there
Okay.
wasn't money on the
Yeah.
table,
So I'm
but
like, whoa.
but this was still something of mine that still just the time and effort of mine.
Yeah.
It was a passion project of mine. So
Ouch. Yeah.
just putting so much effort into that, and then you can't get that back. You can't redo it
Right.
because
Right.
it's not going to be the same. You're emoting through that thing. So that I
Yeah.
just kind of after that I pretty much I learned my lesson after that. It's like, okay, well, when something breaks, fix it. So
Right. Right.
don't try to cheap your way out of it.
Oh yeah.
And because I was putting bongo ties on it, like to make sure it was staying tight. And at some point, it was
Wow.
just getting in the way, and because it's known that piece is known to break. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was MacGyvering it, and it was working at times. But
Yeah. Man, that's
MacGyver
crazy.
comes in neat at times.
Right, right. Yeah, that'll kind of remind me of a time like, when you editing a project and then you didn't save it or back it up, and then all of a sudden your power goes out. And I've
Oh
had
my
nightmares
gosh.
like that before.
Yeah.
They always trained us, make sure you back those projects up. But
Right.
yeah, man, you've working so hard, and then your edit just the power goes out and you didn't save it. But man, that's gotta be crazy to with the pictures though. But
Yeah.
yeah, man. those lessons we learn a lot from, right?
Right,
We
definitely.
learn a lot from those lessons, man. Oh, so my next question for you will be, what are some key elements that every filmmaker should know before working on set with other filmmakers?
Communication is key.
Yes, that's my favorite
Commu-
one, right?
Communication is, as much as like you hear it always, and I love the way that Funk kind of put it. He says the creative part is in the design aspect.
Yes.
That's where you can be creative, but when it's time to execute,
Hmm.
that's when everyone needs to know their role
Right,
and
right.
don't overlap. Obviously, you can look out for people, but think when communication is number one when it comes to it, you want everyone to be on the same page.
Yes,
And
exactly.
but even prior to that, I think it's just having a plan, going
Yeah.
prepared, going
Hmm.
prepared, and even if it's for like the smallest thing or the something you don't want to do, just be the one that's the most prepared
Right,
and
right.
prepare for the worst. Like expect things to go wrong, and I think keeping your composure helps with that. So
Yeah.
but yeah, with all of that, I think having that, the emotional intelligence with that, yeah, I would say communication would be number one.
That's awesome, man. No, those are some great elements. Now, speaking of that, was there a time where things wasn't going as smooth as you thought they should have, and on a production, and how did you handle it?
So yeah, there's definitely been, yeah, there's definitely been those times where, and you kind of have to, this is where it goes back to knowing your role. You kind of have to hold your fort down when you can, and this is really knowing you have to be a people person in this industry. It's not so much
Hmm.
of this whole overarching symbolism type of thing. It's if that
Yeah.
is, it's mainly to get right to finish this production, to get this shot, to get this image, to get this one scene or so.
Right.
And but with that is, so I've been on a production to where we've had a whole unit could be good and long, and then one person that's in
Ah.
that same unit, especially in camera,
Yeah.
um, they could just be ruining it for everybody. And I definitely experienced that into where
Wow.
I stepped up to plate to try to mediate with the people that are having the issue. And they all stood their ground as well too. But just
Hmm.
hearing the kind of, I was on more the receiving end, being the active listener. And I think that's another thing, is being an active listener,
Yeah.
as much as much, be very open to just listening and not so much being the I guess head honcho. Um,
Hmm.
and so, but with that, everyone was on the group, and I'm getting that receiving end of all that, and just seeing just certain things. Just kind of, we finished the production very well. It came out, the project went well, but it's just after that and dealing with that for 6 months. You made the relationships that you did, but when that one person is just not cooperating at the fullest, at their fullest, and kind of just making it seem like everyone else,
Yeah.
and just this whole kind of trickle down of leadership, yeah, it's like someone spiking your coffee every morning and you're not
Wow.
expecting it. And so it definitely can weigh on the morale more than it is like the communicate part, because you can still communicate in that, but the morale changes and you
Right.
want
Right.
everyone to be on the same thing. So when everyone is just not, or one person makes it too difficult for everyone, yeah, that puts everyone in a damper. And even if it's not necessary, but when it's intentional, it's different. But when it's
Yeah.
not intentional, that could sometimes be out of our cause or so. But
Right.
yeah,
Right.
that, so with that, I just basically, you have to stay strong and make sure you're just doing your part and holding it up, and try to hold others at times. That's where accountability and having humility really comes in,
That's
finding
awesome.
it. So
Yeah, man.
that was the one thing for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What would you say excites you the most about being on productions?
People probably.
The people?
It's
Yeah.
always, it's every day is different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Something new every day.
Yeah,
Right.
every hour is different. Everything
Right.
is never the same. So, if anything, I'm always looking at it with such a wider lens, to where I see, I'm seeing how body language is moving people and just how they're communicating. And little things that kind of get me going more. So it's like that, you find a language within one language that we're creating with. And
Right, right.
so, um, yeah, I'd say mainly the people, all facets of life that you're kind of coming across and passing through really quick
Yeah.
and or really long at times. So
Mhm.
the people is probably what gets me going.
That's awesome, man. No, that's really great. Uh, the people, definitely make the project much better depending on how they are. But then sometimes, like you say, if you have certain people that doesn't necessarily click with everyone else, then they can be a problem. So it's
Yeah.
really the people who really make that project and that experience worthwhile. So no, that's really great. Now tell me, what's some advice that you can give students that's probably getting ready to graduate, or maybe someone that's just like, man, I would love to be in this industry. How can I get started? What should I do? What advice can we give them from your end?
If you want to get started, so I feel like you can tackle this from 2 points.
Okay.
For the ones who are in school, I say find the people that you are already collaborating with, if not already connect with a lot. If you guys already have a language you could build and you have similar interests and whatnot, and you guys are facilitating the same ideas, run with that. It may not
Mhm.
be forever, but it'd be something that you guys could always build on over time. It's like a band. A band is, of course, you're making great music, but in order to make this great music, it's a relationship with all
Right,
these
right.
people. So I think that's the first aspect is building the relationship. Is if you're in school, find those relationships that you can harness and grow with, and that want to grow with you.
Mhm.
Run with that so fast and so quick that you'll build your portfolio in no time. And then I would say for the ones that are not in school, it's the relationship still applies, but more so relationship with yourself and your craft. I think
Mhm.
that's where you're able to kind of really take advantage more. You're able to double down a little bit more because you don't have anything. So now you're kind of your only filter right now. So and that's probably the best way that you can be is you're like a sponge.
Right, right.
Whereas, once you get into certain systems and whatnot, you easily can lose sight from that mindset and stay kind of stuck in that one parallel. So I say if when you're starting out, try everything, break every rule. Even though there's rules there, break them. They're there just as a reference point, but they're not
Right,
the end all be all. So I'd say try everything and jump in. Just jump in feet first.
right, right.
Don't yeah you don't want to overthink it, and you don't want it to be this overcomplicated thing. I think the minute that it starts to get overcomplicated, scratch it, go to the next thing. It should be very simple for you. It
Mhm.
should be reactionary. It should be something how just as much if you could watch a YouTube video or read a book on it, I think you should be still putting in the steps to just making it applicable a part of your life. As you have to be attached to the hip to it.
Awesome, awesome, man. That's great. That's beautiful, beautiful answer there. Beautiful answer. Um, Brother Chase, are you working on any projects currently right now? I know we talked about the DTAC production with Image in the Nation. Are there any projects that you can tell us about that you're working on, or
Um, right now, I am working on a project. It's going to be episodic
Mhm.
of these love letters and love stories that these poems that I wrote during COVID. It was like right after a breakup, and it gave me a good idea to kind of. I read this book. It was by Don. I don't know if you've heard of him. He wrote I think the four agreements or
Mhm.
so. And then, but
Wow.
the one I read before, I haven't read that book, but I read The Mastery of Love. Great book.
Nice,
Great book for anyone
nice.
that's just wanting to learn how a little bit more in depth on communication and emotional
Mhm.
intelligence, which I think is key when it comes to this industry as well. And mainly when it comes to yourself, learning how to emote through your craft. Um,
Amazing, amazing.
and so I basically got this idea I started writing these poems, these anonymous poems, and taking them and then making them to actual stories. So right
Mhm.
now I've been kind of going through that, building the poems out, and then actually building stories behind certain poems to where they can actually be giving fragments of love from different perspectives, from a man's perspective, a woman's perspective, and having kind of these different, basically playing off these different emotions more so than it is dialogue based, but going off the actual body language of things and seeing how we communicate through that just in relationships.
Wow, wow. And just so y'all know, this was the first project that Chase told me about the first day we met. And so he dropped this on me. I'm just like, wait a minute now. His brother deep right here. His brother too deep, man. But no, man, that's amazing, man. And you know, I'm here if you need anything. You already know.
Of course, man.
But I'm excited. I'm excited to see.
You're definitely going to write
we're
one.
Gonna take that. Uh-oh. He put it out here first, right? I'm glad you trust me with your baby, man. Oh, that's amazing, man. That means the world. You did drop some books, man. That's pretty much my next question. What resources, which you dropped some already, are there any other resources, or whether it's websites, TV shows, anything that our listeners can build inspiration from your end?
Yeah, definitely. I love to read a lot and just constantly learning. I feel like there's my motto to myself is you're either learning or you're working, and that's how you kind of be able to split things for yourself. The biggest books that I think that have changed me were kind of learning how to organize. I've always been a pretty detailed person, but you can always sharpen anything, and if not, change systems around. So there's one book called The Coaching Habit. That book kind of helps you learning how to be an active listener and how to kind of openly communicate and organizing, letting people learn how they can organize their own thoughts to finding solutions and problems instead of kind of giving advice to people, which we often think that we should just tell people a lot of things what to do, but it's actually kind of just asking the right questions so that they'll find the right answer. And then this is a very popular one, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And this one was really good for building your interpersonal skills and interrelationships and learning how that you play a role in, throughout your life every day, whether you're somebody's mother, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, grandpa, friend, best friend, wife, husband. You play all these roles, but it also talks about the emotional intelligence of where you stem from and how you react to things and how certain people react to you on the receiving end and whatnot. So I think those are really good for communication. Those are probably my top 2 for communication.
Wow.
For anyone that is being like an AD or so, or just even if you're gear oriented, a camera person, I say the Checklist Manifesto. That is a great book that helps you to kind of building smaller front loading habits and smaller systems to help you better organize your day or flexibility with your schedule and whatnot. I could keep going on.
That's amazing, man. These are the most resources, man. The best ones here, man.
And then, and I'll say, for those who who are not big avid book readers, man, for the filmmakers, directors, all that, there's the cinematography. That channel is really good. I love the way he breaks down the movies and just the aspects when he gets into lighting, the in-depth of that. I love that channel. Is probably one of my favorite channels.
Wow. Man, that's amazing. In case y'all didn't know, Brother Chase Black is a very deep brother. All right. Very deep with it, man. But no, man, that's amazing. I can tell you do a lot of reading. So, and these are some great resources, man, to help build, the mind and your communication skills and working with other filmmakers. So, man, those are some great books. I'm gonna have to come back and watch this episode again. Like, what was Chase saying now? Make sure I add up on my list. You know what I mean? But no, I appreciate that, man. That's some really great info. Now, we haven't talked about this yet, but you got your own podcast show, right?
I do.
You didn't think I was going to bring that up. Don't be trying to hide it now. Hey, you never know what can happen in these interviews, man. Tell us about your podcast show, though.
So with the podcast, that's something that I've always wanted to do, and just how, you even said I have a good voice and whatnot. This is mainly dealing with just going back to that emotional intelligence and kind of philosophy and psychology, morality, these ethics, all these types of things and current events and dealing with that. And that's kind of mainly what I mainly play it on. It's called Peace of Mind. Right now we're going through a rebranding, calling it the Black Hours. So rebranding it, but yeah, mainly to give. I mainly started that the peace of mind to give people a peace of mind and see if they actually,
Yeah,
really dig deep into the mind. I do like, psychology, neuroscience, and anything with people oriented, going down to like phonetics of language and whatnot. So I pretty much think of language and kind of communicate that with the podcast, it
that's
being
amazing.
on all mediums.
Wow, that's amazing, man. Yeah, I have to tell you, man, I know we were discussing possibly starting our own podcast show together, but I was like, they can't have
Right.
both of our voices on one podcast. That may be too much, right?
That might be just
That'll
enough.
be epic, right? That'll be epic. It's just like, just come on and
Yeah.
just talk, man. But no,
Right.
man, no, that's amazing, man. Definitely check out Chase Black's podcast. And of course, as he said, they're going through rebranding. So be on the lookout for that. Now, Chase, where can our listeners or our viewers, because we have a video now, right? Where can they
Right.
check out more of your work? Do you have websites or social media sites that you're a part of?
Yeah, so you can reach me. My website is the same as my Instagram handle is Chase Noir, ChaseNoir. And then also you can check out my studio with Noir Film Studio. And that's where pretty much all my handles are at.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. What are some final thoughts you want to leave for the listeners?
Man, I say really take the time to really learn how you emote. I think that
Nice.
changes everything with your emotions and learning how just kind of digging deep into you. I think it's very easy to kind of see what everything that looks cool and feels cool, but you're always going to be influenced. But I always say pull from what you do and how you view things. Whether you're an AD, whether you're in lighting, whether you're an actor, it's all a language. So learning how you communicate through that, and that's what I was saying earlier. Like with communication is key because it is the key resource to how you emote through everything. So whatever your medium is really dig deep into that and even move away from that at times and really kind of see what draws you naturally, because there is a human nature to your drive. So finding that out, spending time with that, and that takes time. It's never overnight. It's never overnight, and you have to really do some deep work with it. Yes, there's some varies, nuances and details that come with that, but I think the main thing is really dig deep into yourself and really sell yourself on the idea. If you have any ideas, you don't need to ask permission from anyone else. Like if it's your idea, you should sell yourself on it. If you can't sell yourself on it, then no one else is going to believe in you into that. So I really say dig deep into your emotional side and learn how to build some leadership skills for yourself. I think that comes with that, and really spend time getting to know yourself through your craft.
Amazing, man. What an amazing answer. My final thoughts for you, Chase Black, my brother, man, keep doing what you're doing. I don't know if you know this, but you inspire me, man, just having these conversations with you. I'm getting used to having you on set, man. And it's just been like, man, like, whenever we have a production coming up, I'm like, yo, is Chase going to be on set now, But
I know, I'm
man,
always expecting you too.
yes, man, you're a blessing on set. I'm getting used to working with you on this project that we're currently working on. And so I'm looking forward to more projects, feature films, and all that great stuff, what the good Lord may have for us, right? I'm looking
Right.
forward to all of that, man. But no, keep doing what you're doing, man. You're definitely a light on set. And you inspire me each and every day, man. Just having these deep conversations with you. You make my mind think a lot more. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that. All right. All right,
I'm
man.
here
Thank
for
you
it.
so much, man. Thank you so much also for being here and giving us some time, and to talk to our wonderful listeners. I always say we're learning and growing together. What's so great about these interviews is I learn a lot too, just by listening to my wonderful guests like yourself. So I thank you so much for taking time to be here, man. And
Yeah,
I'm
man.
looking forward, man. Looking forward to everything that's coming in the near future, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I appreciate it so much. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. Thank you, man. And thank you all for tuning in. Of course, stay tuned. We do have more great episodes in store. Don't forget to check out Mr. Chase Black. He has a lot of great things going on. All right. Take care and be blessed, everyone.